All right, we're rolling. I'm here with Steve Kusaba, who has a grand project. Do you want to tell me about it?
Yes, this project is a 47-hour Omni musical. Because it examines the modern ruling structures and how they interact with people. And it mostly has sort of a message of hope, where that in some place people might be able to live freely and not be so stifled by the ruling class.
And what's the name of this project?
It's the Centrifugal Zotz Clock.
Great clock, synchronizing bell, bringing the parts all move. True clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. Send all the players hurrying to go, view all the layers and labyrinth below. Moving as if it's from a single thought, gears in the great Zotz clock. Great and mighty clock, synchronizing bell, bringing the parts all move. Great and mighty clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. 2 or million, rational or not, no reptilian impulses forgot. Follow instincts, folly to fall, gears in the great Zotz clock.
And it has some key themes in it. And one of the it's about the advent of life in man and the rights of man and the reverence toward life.
So, would you characterize it as a political work?
It's very political and very spiritual in a sense.
You have some famous or semi-famous artists on this project, don't you?
Yes, I do. I actually have Dweezil Zappa, for instance, played guitar on Release the Memes, and he actually is on the website, his photo is, and Steve Vai played on We Run This Place, and we've got Billy Holting, Mike Miller played also on it. We've got Vinny Colaiuta was on it, world's best drummer. We've got Chad Wackerman, and it goes on and on and on. It's a who's who list of really incredible players, and there's some performances that are stunning.
Centrifugal clock. Great clock, synchronizing bell, bringing the parts all move. True clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. Send all the players hurrying to go, view all the layers and labyrinth below. Moving as if it's from a single thought, gears in the great Zotz clock. Great and mighty clock, synchronizing bell, bringing the parts all move. Great and mighty clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. 2 or billion, rational or not.
Is rap music incorporated into your style at all?
Yes, there's the Alban Bear Disco. That's a rap with 12-tone row music in the background. And I even made a rap song that would get banned because I felt it was important to represent that too.
One of your rap songs got banned?
Well, no, that song would be banned because it's I hope you censored this out. I'll tell you the title. The title's even offensive.
If I have to censor it out, please just no.
I've never met Steve. And this is all his fault.
Well, hello everybody. I want to talk about how I came in contact with Dave Cartwright. And you have to go back a ways. This is the sort of in the heyday of the personal computer, when the personal computer was just getting going, and Commodore had went through their various 128 or whatever to the Amiga, and on television there was a show on TV I'm watching, and then what happens? But on the television station they say, well, you know, we're interested in videos to play on TV. I'm going, what? Videos on TV? And I had a piece called Sheet Metal Life, which, you know, had the Holy Cow and various things on it, and a video of everyone carrying red flags with...
Holy cow, huh?
Yeah, the story of Chairman Mao. We also have the Requiem, a very sad thing, but we're going to release it, and
The Requiem is an interesting thing for you too, right?
yes, I have 2 flats most of the time.
Is that significant?
No. And it was a fun video, so I send it in, and pretty soon I'm on the phone talking to somebody, and I get the next step in the process. You know, he says send a CD. We'll put those to video. So I send in Brothers of Another Realm, and suddenly some real interesting footage is put to it that I never would have dreamed of. Some fun stuff. The song Schlagermore Glich 2 was on it. I'm in touch with Dave Cront right now, and I actually get to have a lot of conversations on the phone. And it's after a while it's pretty amazing, because it's like a needle in a haystack. I just sort of ran into him, and he's very deep on a lot of subjects, and you know, he knows a lot about things of a worldly sense. And it was really fun talking to him and so forth, and we had a lot of conversations. And at that time I was beginning what was going to later on turn into the centrifugal Zatz clock. It's the same story, but it began with the Ranger Dan series.
Are there any new products available in the store?
Yes, no, at the present we have 8 CD projects ready for production, and we expect to have the 2 of them this fall.
And then it sort of went to Craptus, and then the next iteration was the Tunnel, and then it was all brought together under the banner of the centrifugal Zatz clock, a 47-hour work of music that has a lot of the themes that Dave and I are both interested in. And
First impressions on Steve Kusaba. I remember editing a music video program, and one day the producer came through the studio and said something about spilling a chili dog on his pants and said, "What the expletive, Dave?"
Riding in my car, I got a chili booger sitting on the dashboard. I come to a stop and I spill it on my pants. It makes me feel so bad.
And threw a CD at me and walked away. So naturally, I had to have a listen. And that was the first impression with Steve. And then following that was a series of music videos that he had shot, with tape. So if that dates us, and they were interesting, but not quite a broadcast quality. So I ended up recutting them, I think, and that was Brothers of Another Realm. Been packing boxes of SVHS and VHS dumps of programs I had produced for, I don't know, 20 years, produced, edited. A lot of the programming's gone with the wind. But what survives and was dumping to digital, and social media had caught up to making it available to get these pieces in front of people where they could see them again after 20 years, and so I came across a VHS tape with Boar written on it, and popped it in. It was Brothers of Another Realm, and reached out to Steve. So I had put together a film and kind of put it on the back burner. It was an afterthought anyway. I was hoping to write another book, but there were things I wanted to say that I didn't feel belonged in the book, so I made a film. Not sure how one relates to the other, but that's the way it went. And was working on another, and realized really soon, because I am no composer, that so there needed to be music to these pieces. So I do what when you make a film, you put a score to it that kind of shows any composer or musician, the feel that you're going for, the type of theme or the music that you're looking for. And I think it was 5 Nights was the first project, 5 Nights of Waking Dreams. reacquainted with Steve to do a soundtrack for that film, and so he laid a soundtrack to it, and the film came back with like no ambient sound at all, just packed to the gills with music. And that's when I realized, like, you know, for the first time, how much of a dramatic shift Steve's evolution through the process had come. And you know, not just that, but how much, you know, to some extent, technology had caught up enough to be able to handle what he envisioned. So huge sweeping pieces came back, and then that led to the life cycle of the proletariat. I sent him the film, he scored it, sent it back, said, wow, that would look different, that would look good in a different format. So I recut the film. So there's 2 versions, there's actually 3. It's more like an art installation piece, but huge pieces in that. So the trade-off is, you know, I get to work with a guy who gives good soundtracks, but I've got to feed him music videos. He's kind of a monster like that.
A little bit about the construction of this very large piece. It's very reliant on the idea of leitmotifs, and of course, under Wagner, he did some very sophisticated work with that. So, for instance, you might have the theme Cruel, and you might have the theme Fate. And you would work them together and you would get Cruel Fate. And so, such an inspiring idea to even think like that. I thought that what if you tried to really go all in with that, go as deep as you can, and actually have a constant set of language where there's a story occurring in one piece, and then just the bringing in of one motif or a melody or a harmony suddenly says something from a prior piece, and it puts that into that context, and now it's augmented your story. It's telling another different story if you're following the leitmotif. At any point, you can augment the story with that particular motif, and then not only can you develop your own in-house motifs, bring in lots of them, you can do quotations from other people's music, and you can have sort of a compound language that's going on at all times. And these quotations mixed in with the existing stuff can make for like a rich textual basis, or rich textual world. Yes, it's really exciting. It's really fun. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on in this whole thing that it's a large amount of work. It's very hard, and but it's exciting because the possibilities are so vast, and it's, you know, it's just wakes you up, makes you full of life. It's a great thing. This music is like a chemical in and of itself. That's kind of loose, I know, but my theory is that you change the structure of your brain with music. It does a lot of positive things, but music is amazing. And then when you mix music with altered states, or if you mix it with exercise, or you mix it with it goes with almost anything. It goes with, and magical things happen with music, and hopefully everybody lives a life rich in music, because I don't think it would be such a good thing to leave it out.
My style of filmmaking comes from a deep-seated approach in the idea that the narrative film is dead. And if you can evoke a response, visceral or rational of any kind, in your audience, then you've done the job of film. So answer the question I asked myself early on. With photography, everyone has a camera now, so how do you make something different, unique, that stands out, that evokes an idea or tells a story? And so collage work, multi-layered collage photography came out of that. I extended that visually, that expression, in film. My approach with the Zatzclock is that the majority of people aren't going to relate to the storyline or probably unfamiliar with it. So how do we take the ideas and the concepts and make them translatable, to turn them into something that an audience can relate to, that they can see and taste and touch and feel and hear? That was a challenge with the Zatzclock.
The exhaustion, of course, if you can imagine a gigantic man being carried by small people on sticks. He's sitting in a chair and they're carrying the chair around, heaving from the weight, barely being able to move forward. The allegory is obvious.
Hello, citizens of the world. This is Hidden News reporting once again. These are the news for today.
Hello. In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch.
7 million people are threatened by starvation. Thousands have already died.
My fellow citizens,
black people in America must be the President of the United States of America, must be the Secretary of State like Kissinger. They are more brilliant than Dr. Kissinger.
He said, Mr. Trump, there may be somebody with tomatoes in the audience. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise.
This great meeting is gathered here tonight to hear the policy and faith of fascism.
In the light of the day, you might see through a rose prism. Don't forget to always please contain your optimism. There's a moment in time when you see the truth, when you see the way to go. It's a weapon's blow. And the second nature to the ruling man. He knows very well who needs the iron hand. The strongest side, the future. He will never go away. Those who lift the platform bearing all of his weight, no doubt in their hearts that this is truly their fate. Now one and done, exhaustion, sweating in the midday sun. get to always. Please contain your optimism. There's a moment in time when you see the truth, when you seek the way to go. It's a weapon's flow. So maybe you should try to resist the urge. Bring your caution to emerge. Set the weapons flow. From the second nature to the ruling man. He knows very well who needs the iron hand. The strongest side, the future. He will never go away. Those that left the platform bearing all of his weight. No doubt in their heart that this is truly their fate. No one is done. Exhaustion. Sledding in the midday sun.
The second alien shuffle. You know, it's not that. How do I put it? It's not that unusual, but I don't think I've heard anything like it before, even though it's not that wildly divergent. So, you tell me.
So my approach to the second alien shuffle was pretty simple. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at the result of on society of governments lying to them. In 2012, the United States government released a slew of top secret documents concerning Area 51 and the UFO conspiracy, only to reveal that they had propagated the lie to hide the fact that they were doing weapons and aircraft testing in secret facilities around the country, pouring millions of taxpayer dollars into programs that people might not otherwise approve of, because their purposes were questionable. When you have the strongest military on the face of the planet, why do you need to keep pouring money into it? But the result of that led to this UFO culture, which leads to like UFO cults like Heaven's Gate, or the Unarians, or the Scientologists. And so, that being said, my approach was to make the second alien shuffle something more relatable to the general public if they understood that.
UFO cults, a synthesis of mainstream religion and cutting-edge science fiction.
Stealthing away, ride the corners both night and day. Makes me weary, moral decay. Break out, break out. This grim business will stay. Whether I am hero or ray, yet the timing deep to the cause. Break out, break out. Break out, break out. what was said. So break out, so break out, so break out, so break out.
Counter-electrically was about the tunnel dwellers doing battle with the surface dwellers using technology, and of course all manners of technology, including memes and messages and various currency methods, various market methods, all methods to avoid the evil surface dwellers. And counter-electrically is celebrating the use of technology to free mankind and to work for the individual and the rights of man.
For me, nothing better identified a movement up from underground that an audience could relate to in the way that Steve addressed it was as obvious in the video with the internet hackers and whistleblowers and groups like Anonymous.
Electrically prepared to strike. Electrically prepared to strike. Well, they can't figure where the center or the source is. Nobody electrically prepare to strike. Counter electrically prepare to strike. Counter electrically prepare to strike. Well, there was no way we could beat them at their own game. All we could do is bloody up the bomb. We try to obliterate their ideas. Waving the hand and we are marching underground to counter electrically prepare to strike. Counter electrically prepare to strike. Counter electrically prepare to strike. Counter electrically prepare to strike.
Release the Memes, which features Dweezil Zappa on a very wonderful solo. So, you'll find that exhilarating when you get to it. Release the Memes is just what it says it is. For each body trying to accomplish things and make people do what they want them to do, or to at least not interfere with what they're doing, they construct stories and myths and memes to make everyone have an aha moment and have an emotional connection to whatever idea they're trying to sell. Release the Memes. Mr. Kovalenko singing that.
On October 18th, 2018, 3 weeks before the congressional midterm elections, the Justice Department announced that Russia and a catering company continued to attack the United States online. Prosecutors unsealed a September criminal complaint against a 44-year-old Russian woman from St. Petersburg. She was employed by the Internet Research Agency. The troll farm, directed by a man known as Putin's cook, and two companies he controls, Concord Management and Consulting LLC and Concord Catering. He also supplied mercenaries to support Russia's interests in the Syrian civil war. According to the U.S. government, he served as the chief accountant of Project Lakta, the information influence operation. She was charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States. Officials have hinted that foreign nation-states continue to target U.S. politics with so-called information influence operations aimed at exploiting partisan discord. Our foreign adversaries continue their efforts to interfere with our democracy by creating social and political division, spreading distrust in our political system, and advocating for the support or defeat of particular political candidates. Quote from FBI Director Christopher Wray. The Office of Director of National Intelligence said it was concerned about ongoing campaigns by Russia, China, and other foreign actors, including Iran, to undermine confidence in democratic institutions and influence people and public sentiment and government policies. These activities also may seek to influence voter perceptions and decision-making in the 2018-2020 United States elections. The approach is the same, which is identify and infiltrate audiences on both the left and the right, and try to pit them against each other. The criminal complaint contains page after page of various online posts and memes from the team at Project Lakta, aimed at inflaming American political debates. The conspiracy allegedly used social media and other internet platforms to address a wide variety of topics, including immigration, gun control and the Second Amendment, Confederate flag, race relations, LGBT issues, the Women's March, the NFL national anthem debate. Russian trolls allegedly aimed at specific events as well, including mass shootings in Las Vegas and Charleston, and the white nationalist gathering in Charlottesville, Virginia, and various personal and policy decisions by the Trump administration. The charges make clear that Project Laka operatives were weighing in on both sides of the political division. In the wake of Florida's mass shooting at Parkland High School, one of the Russian accounts even urged voters to turn against the GOP, vote them out in 2018. A month later, the same account called for Donald Trump to win a Nobel Prize for his North Korean outreach. Much of the effort was funneled through sock puppet Facebook accounts, which would post divisive content and even in some cases contact U.S. political organizers with tips and proposals on events. The indictment gave insight into how Russia framed stories for maximum impact. The charges clearly overlapped with the Mueller indictment against the Internet Research Agency. In part, they appeared to draw from some of the same evidence, including detailed expense reports and financial accounting. The 38-page complaint levied charges against 13 individuals and 3 companies, including Concord Catering. Project Laka's proposed operation budget totaled more than $35 million during the 2016 to 2018. The Justice Department and the U.S. government's increasingly aggressive strategy for charging, naming, and shaming foreign government operatives targeting U.S. companies in the election landscape is aimed both at raising public awareness and making clear that Russia can't act with impunity. A meme on Instagram circulated by a group called Born Liberal. A fist holds a cluster of strings reaching down into people with television sets for heads. The text declares, "The people believe what the media tells them that they believe." And supposedly the quote's by George Orwell. The quote is obviously false. Born Liberal was created by the Internet Research Agency. We live in a time when American democratic debate is being influenced by liars spreading memes about our inability to understand the truth. Facebook responded to the IRA's voter suppression efforts on the platform in written responses to Congress. Facebook and Twitter were both used to discourage turnout. In some cases, the trolls tried to mislead people into texting their votes. In others, they encouraged Americans to vote for third-party candidates like Jill Stein, or to give up on voting altogether, with messages that read, expletive the elections. 1,100 total YouTube videos. They discovered 1,063 focused on police brutality and Black Lives Matter, 571 of which had keywords related to police and police brutality. Focus on police brutality and content targeting African American wasn't limited to YouTube. Of more than 12 web domains the IRA registered, the majority included donotShoot.us and Blacktivist.info, were aimed at black communities. Of the 33 most popular Facebook pages linked to the IRA, nearly half focused on black audiences. This effort was particularly successful on Instagram, where the account @Blackstagram_ amassed more than 300,000 followers and elicited more than 28 million reactions. Much of this content seemed designed to stoke distrust among African Americans in democratic institutions and depress black turnout for Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. The IRA was actually most obsessive about Instagram. The troll accounts received 187 million engagements on Instagram, and about 40% of the accounts they created had at least 10,000 followers. On Twitter, the IRA deployed 3,841 accounts, including several personas that regularly played hashtag games. That approach paid off. 1.4 million people engaged with the tweets, leading to nearly 73 million engagements. Most of this work was focused on news, while on Facebook and Instagram, the Russians prioritized deeper relationships, according to the researchers. On Facebook, the IRA notched a total of 3.3 million page followers who engaged with their politically divisive content, 76.5 million times. Russia's most popular pages targeted the right wing and the black community. The trolls also knew their audiences. They deployed Pepe memes at pages intended for the right-leaning millennials, but kept them away from posts directed at older conservative Facebook users. Not every attempt was a hit. With 33 of the 81 IRA Facebook pages, over 1,000 followers, dozens had none at all. That the IRA trolls aim to pit Americans against each other with divisive memes is now well known. But the latest reports reveal how bizarre some of the IRA's outreach got. To collect personally identifying information about targets and perhaps use it to create custom and look-alike audiences on Facebook, the IRA's Instagram pages sold all kinds of merchandise that includes LGBT sex toys and many variations of triptych and 5-panel artwork featuring traditionally conservative patriotic themes. The IRA also worked to recruit offline converts with job listings. One Facebook page called Army of Jesus offered free counseling to people with sexual addiction, using ads that read, "Struggling with addiction to masturbation? Reach out to me and we will beat it together. Jesus." The report also points out new links between the IRA pages and WikiLeaks, which helped disseminate hacked emails from the Clinton campaign manager John Podesta in the weeks leading up to the election. On October 4th, 2016, days before the first email dump, the researchers found Facebook and Instagram posts about WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, which reinforced his reputation as a freedom fighter. It's important to stress that all of this represents organic activity, that is to say, Russian presence unrelated to the relatively small ad spend that Facebook executives pointed to as the story first unfolded. That even silly memes can change minds. While many people think of memes as cat pictures with words, the Defense Department and DARPA have studied them for years as powerful tools of cultural influence, capable of reinforcing or even changing values and behavior. Between the Twitter handles and Facebook pages, the Instagram posts, the YouTube personalities, the fake local news sites, and in at least one case, a phony geopolitical think tank, trolls created their own mini-internet to spread distrust in the election system itself. Their efforts remain ongoing. All of this demonstrates that disinformation has evolved from a nuisance into high-stakes information war.
given message we tested before. Release the memes, TV and print, clave in a hand so freshly virgin. Release the memes, TV and print, spread by word of mouth so no world. My Uncle Bob makes the message his job. He uses words that we want him to say. Release the memes. Release the memes.
Oh, you can imagine my delight when I found out that Dweezil Zappa was going to play on Release the Memes. So he played a solo that was almost like rocket fuel on fire, and it fit nicely over the chord changes. It was really exceptionally fun. It was really exciting. I'm just plain lucky to have Dweezil and just a number of these great artists that have played on this project. Very lucky. This particular song, What You Deserve, is a very, very, very dark song. Everyone understands the notion of war with two armies meeting in a battlefield and going head to head in the ultimate of violence. But war is really conducted at all sorts of different levels, more subtle levels. So, for instance, if somebody would attack a particular group, this happens in history all the time, where there's a group they wish to victimize and they use the police, they invent some laws to victimize the group and say, see, it's against the law, you know, when really the law is more the crime than the crime that the law is stating. And so you have different levels of war, even to the lightest level. So for instance, if they make a requirement that every yard has to have purple roses, has to grow purple roses, 6 of them, or they will be violating a statute, and then they will be, the person not growing the flowers will be subject to a fine, $100 or $200 fine, who knows, any amount. Okay, that is a form of war. All of the different statutory events where, you know, occupational licensing and so forth, where basically, like, you might want to, you know, wash hair, but then they say, you need a license to do that, and you have to have, you know, 200 hours of university training in hair washing, which is all ridiculous. It's, of course, the function is a crony function. It's one in which, you know, it helps the people doing that collect money. The people who are in that occupation enjoy the fact that there's barriers to the entry for others. All these things are forms of war. All these things, every time where people interfere with people, okay, anything involving a victimless crime is a form of war. That's war. If two people meet and they wish to engage in sex, for hire or not, that is their business. Okay? If somebody wishes to hire somebody, that is their business. If people want to do anything, as long as there's no harm being caused, okay, that's fine. It is a state of war when they are interfered with. And so, these are the lighter levels. And What You Deserve covers the more severe levels. The levels, the concentration camp levels, the gulag levels, the levels of horror, which just exist to bolster the rule of a particular group or person, and of course it's all these acts of violence and war come with a lot of preachiness about how you deserved it. You know, you didn't obey the law. You need to go to the camp. Or they might dispense with the preaching stuff and just send them to the camp because they don't enjoy the schadenfreude of rubbing it in. But What You Deserve is a very dark piece, and it really belongs in the Part 2, War, as it emphasizes the violence of the state and the criminality of the state.
So my approach to What You Deserve was solely based on the fact that I wonder if as a society we haven't evolved past this sort of thinking, this ideation, this idea that simple phrase encapsulates. You know, the phrase goes back a long way and has been with us for a very long time. And it's really, its only application is to demoralize or dehumanize someone else with the excuse that it somehow allows you to do terrible things to a person or persons. You know, if you look at it, work sets you free. The expression comes from the title of a 1873 novel in which gamblers and fraudsters find a path to virtue through labor, and that was on almost, you know, most all of the concentration camps. The slogan was known for appearing at the entrance of Dachau and then copied at Auschwitz. However, what you deserve. The phrase was cynically used by the Nazis as a motto displayed over the entrance of Buchenwald concentration camp. It faced inward to be read by inmates, so that has an internal effect on the psyche to see that and know that you're not walking out of there. Work might set you free, but what you deserve definitely doesn't hold any connotations that you'll be walking out of there anytime soon. So the phrase was cynically used by the Nazis, and it had this idiomatic German expression been that way for several centuries. If you look back to Martin Luther and his contemporaries, they use those words a lot. And by the way, Martin Luther had no love of the Jewish community. And in 1543, he published On the Jews and Their Lies, in which he called base and whoring people full of devil's feces, they wallow in like swine. So the term being attached to a certain sect or set of people that you wanted to demoralize had already been established in Germany for several centuries before Buchenwald was even conceived. He had all sorts of ideas for what to do with the Jews, including the wholesale liquidation of their synagogues, even homes, and a ban on the teaching of their rabbis, upon pain of loss of life and limb, and that is a quotation. Luther's Jew hatred was typical for the time, but Luther himself was hardly typical. He was a powerful, colloquial writer, and his words surely had some effect. He was the founder of a church, or a movement, that now numbers nearly 1 billion. But more pertinently, he provided a religious impromptu to German anti-Semitism, which culminated in the Holocaust. Luther was often cited by the Nazis. So What You Deserve also appears in the title of a cantata by Johann Sebastian Bach, first performed in the Weimar in 1715. The ego defense of displacement plays an important role in scapegoating. Now understand that the difference between scapegoating and what you deserve is absolutely nothing. And scapegoating is, it's a biblical term. So they would choose 2 goats to sacrifice. One they would sacrifice, and the blood would be offered up to God. The other they would invest and endow all the sins of the people on and turn it loose, so that it would walk around in the wilds, carrying the burden of the entire people's sins. So using a scapegoat allowed for uncomfortable feelings like anger, frustration, envy, guilt, shame, the 7 deadly sins, and insecurity, and you could displace those or redirect those onto another, often more vulnerable person or group. Scapegoats, outsiders, immigrants, minorities, deviants, the persecuted, enabling the scapegoats to discharge and distract from the negative feelings, which are replaced and overtaken by a crude but consoling sense of affirmation and self-righteous indignation. The creation of a villain necessarily implies that of a hero, even if both are purely fictional. Sometimes it is the villain or villains who are in need of an even greater villain, especially in a time of crisis. Unscrupulous leaders and politicians can cynically exploit the ancient, deep-rooted impulse to scapegoat, to deflect and distract from their own inadequacies, and evade or seek to evade their legitimate burden of blame and responsibility. Human scapegoats are to varying degrees dehumanized and objectified. Some, such as witches in medieval Europe, are quite literally demonized. The dehumanization of the scapegoat makes scapegoating both more potent and more palatable, and can even lend it a sense of preordained cosmic inevitability. So envy gradually builds up in a society until it reaches a tipping point, at which order and reason cede to mob rule, chaos, and violence. To quell this madness of the crowds, which possesses an existential threat to the society, an exposed or vulnerable person or group is singled out as a sink for all the bad feelings, and the bad feeling bred from the bad feeling. So there you have it. That's basically what the term "what you deserve" is used for, what it's been historically used for, and I'd like to think we live in a society where we can go beyond that, where we can get away from such barbarous ideation, but it doesn't seem like that happens at all. You'll note in the video there's one continuous video in the frame. It's located in the bottom right corner. It's one continuous video. That's a video of a man who's mentally disabled in Texas. And when the police arrived at the door, he answered the door with a screwdriver in his hand, and they shot him. They just shoot him right there. Well, he had a screwdriver in his hand, so he must have gotten what he deserved. You also see several other references in the video, some to which you might agree they got what they deserved, in which case that's kind of part of the problem. We look at Saddam Hussein, we look at Libya and Muammar Gaddafi in the video. The Nazis are getting what they deserved. Of course, they were just administrating what the Jews and other dissidents and other different people deserved as well. So I don't know if it's a karma, if it's an interesting idea to try to wrap your head around, is that who are we to say that this is what someone deserves? And once we use that for an excuse to get rid of bad people, then we try to find excuses to make everyone a bad person. So, we excuse this behavior. We excuse this behavior and the criminality of this behavior by saying, well, got what he deserved.
Place of worry, place of anguish, understand for you we are placed here to serve. Questions will be addressed, put your fears to rest. Place of worry, place of you have come to get what you deserve. Some wonder where we get the gall and the nerve. You are feared by the state. Place of worry, place of woe. You have come to get what you deserve. You have come to get what you deserve. Place of worry, place of anguish. Some wonder where we get the gall and the nerve. You are here for our fun. Work has not yet begun. Place of worry, place of woe. You have come to get what you deserve. You have come to get what you deserve.
The story of We Run This Place deals with the men of gray. Now, all good conspiracy stories, they always wrap up too neatly. Everything's in order, everything works out just perfectly, they plan it out, it unfolds properly. That's not the way it works in reality. The way it works is there's incompetence, bungling, stumbling, there's infighting, there are people causing problems for each other, and all of these troubles, and they're sort of winging it, and doing lots of damage to everyone in the process. And they wonder about who's the threat here, who's the problem. And they have all this political unrest, and they wish they need to contain these people. So they know what they're going to do. They're going to have a meeting. They're going to have a great political event, and the great debate is what it's going to be called, and everyone's going to come for the great debate. And of course, John Kovalenko is singing about that. We run this place. And one of the interesting things about old John was that he did a magnificent job, like he always does, and he gave off nice sarcastic overtones, making the men of gray seem a little ridiculous, though dangerous and power mad, but perfect singing. And of course, the big solo, the fantastic solo, was done by Steve Vai, an amazing guitar player. Not only that, an amazing musician, all things musical, just a great person to have on any project. His solo was like smoke was coming off of it. It was just magnificent, and it had lots of energy, and it just fit the vibe of what the subject matter was about. The drummer was Jason Milkey, and in every place he did drumming, constructed drumming that was just perfect, and very, very high energy drumming where it was needed.
Did the world wars, revolutions, and big events of human history evolve naturally, or were they calculated and pre-planned? If they were pre-planned, who planned them, and what are they planning for the future of humanity? The answer to this puzzling question can be found within the boundaries of 3 of the world's most powerful cities. Those 3 cities belong to no nation and pay no taxes. They are Washington's District of Columbia, which is not part of the city of Washington or of the United States, the inner city of London, which is not part of London or England, and Vatican City, which is not part of Rome or Italy. These cities, called city-states, have their own independent flag, their own separate laws, and their own separate identity. Crown colonies are controlled by the empire of 3 city-states. At the center of each city-state is a towering, phallic-shaped stone monument called an obelisk that points skyward.
Well, 80% of the people live on less than $10 a day. That's all the people in the world. So there's only 20% that we would call the middle class, so to speak, and then about 1% who are the transnational capitalist class. Those are the really, really rich people. So for the bottom 80%, $10 a day is not very much, and half of those, half the people in the world live on less than $2.50 a day. And the bottom third, over 1 billion, live on $1.25 a day. So that gross inequality is dramatic. And 30,000 of them die every day from starvation or malnutrition. So we have an ongoing slaughter of people who aren't, and there's more than enough food in the world to feed everybody. So, I mean, a third of the food in the world is wasted. But it's not profitable for capitalism to try to sell them that food, and it's not profitable to give it to them, so they won't do it. So they're just seen as surplus people, and they're allowed to die. They argue that it's going to trickle down and that they can continue to grow capital. And that's part of the problem with capitalism, because you have this concentration of money, of capital, that continues to need to grow and expand because they want a return on it. And so when I write about the giants are these transnational investment companies with over $1 trillion worth of assets that they're managing. And a trillion is a lot. They've got the core of it, for sure. And people are getting poorer and thousands are dying every day. With the 1% of the world, 8 of them have half the wealth in the world. And the top 1%, I mean, they're controlling, 90% of the wealth in the world. So that is very concentrated. So these giant transnational investment companies manage their money for them and invest it in places where they want to get a return. So there are 17 of these $1 trillion investment giants. They collectively control, in 2017, $41 trillion worth of wealth. So it's just a massive concentration of wealth. And there's only 199 people that are on the boards of directors of those companies. So we have less than 200 people who are deciding the investment policies for it's 50 trillion this year, $50 trillion worth of wealth in the world. And a lot of those decisions aren't favorable to most people, and it's favorable to them. So the problem with this kind of capital concentration is they run out of places to invest it with good returns. But even then, they still have more capital and they've got good places to do it. So part of global, the neoliberal economic policies is to buy up the world, literally privatize the world, so that freeways, highways are bought up, the water resources in the world, it could be universities and cities, I mean, everything, it becomes privatized. And so the public domain is bought up. That's another way of trying to get a return on investment. And even that, there's still more money than there's good place to invest. So we've reached a level now of permanent war.
this place forever. Anarchistic people must be weeded out now. They have left the grid. They don't want to let us have our take. If they think we're finished, wake up, we run this. If they think we're finished, oh, there's one thing they should know, that we run this place. Guess what? We run this place. Guess what? We run this place. place. We run this place each hour. We run this place. Yo, we run this place. We run this place with sorrow. Yo, we run this place. It's ours today and tomorrow. We run this place. We run this place. We run this place. Forever we run this place. We run this place. We run this place. Forever.
Because he runs the fund. Don't get next to him in dollar bills. Of course, this is music for the Lehman crash. There's a lot of music for that, and music for corruption, music for the fun of the marketplace anyway. This is music for Bernie Madoff. It's music for SEC. It's music for FINRA. All the different entities that from the ones that are outright super fraudulent to the ones that are annoying nuisances that make things worse, to the ones that are, to the exchanges that perform a good function, to the traders and their wonderful duty that they perform for society. It's supposed to encompass all of that, but the crooks are more fun.
To turn the bull loose. We're gonna have to speed it up. We're gonna have to speed it up.
Seeing double the accounts and view, they caught him dipping in the
from Stormy Times CD. Raising Up the Taxes High is on that CD. And one could argue that it doesn't belong with all of these other pieces. But we get a little loose here and there. Add a little something foreign. Okay.
I want to thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't already know it, you're going to discover that there is no law requiring anybody to pay income taxes or keep books and records for income tax purposes. And you'll also discover that there is no penalties or crimes involving income taxes. Despite this, as reported in the paper, because of IRS pressure, people have committed suicide. As a matter of fact, if you saw the Maury Povich show last year, well, husband committed suicide. People have had nervous breakdowns, forced into bankruptcy, and their businesses are literally destroyed, all because of IRS pressure. And all because they were pressured to pay a tax that no law requires anybody to pay. Here is the Internal Revenue Code, and I'm the nation's leading seller of Internal Revenue Code. I buy them 500 at a clip. We're going to get into this. And there is no law in here that requires anybody to keep books and records or to pay income taxes. Now, I just said a little while ago, because of IRS pressure. Now, the government, the federal government, has done a terrific public relations job. They've gotten everybody to hate the IRS and fear the IRS, while presumably still respecting and liking their government. It's amazing. On the Maury Povich show, for instance, and these other shows, they'll talk about IRS abusing their authority, the IRS doing this, the IRS doing that. Nobody ever bothers to mention it's the government that's doing it. It would be as if I were walking around a room punching people in the nose. And the people would say, oh, Schiff is a nice guy, but his fist, oh, his fist is terrible. As if I have no control over my fist. This is what the government has done. But the IRS does nothing that the courts and Congress doesn't let them get away with. The real culprits here are federal judges who have been putting people in jail, knowingly putting people in jail, for violating a law that nobody was required to obey. As a matter of fact, there's no law. As a matter of fact, the definition of a tax is a mandatory exaction for the support of government. Since there's nothing mandatory in here about paying an income tax, it shouldn't even be called an income tax. The government invites contributions. As a matter of fact, when I write certain articles or pleadings to the court, sometimes I take the word tax and I put quotes around it, because technically there is no such thing as an income tax. There is no such thing as a voluntary tax. Either you're required to pay it, in which case it's a law, and if you're not required to pay it, it shouldn't even be termed a tax. And you know, it's strange. The government reports from time to time when there's a tornado or the flood or a hurricane and people's houses are damaged and destroyed. The government immediately jumps in with low income loans, low interest rate loans, and we're going to help these people. At the same time, every day, hundreds of houses are being seized by the IRS or the government. Paychecks, bank accounts, where people lose their homes because they don't have their bank accounts. As a matter of fact, in the March 1997 issue of the Reader's Digest, there was an article, The IRS versus Us, meaning U.S. And in that article, they accurately reported that in 1996, the IRS seized 3 million paychecks. So here's the government seizes homes from some people in order to get money so these people can fix up their home. Now, the reason they do that is they get a lot of publicity when they fix up people's homes. It seems like we have a benevolent government. Meanwhile, the papers don't report the homes in the given community that the IRS seizes. So the whole thing is nonsense. So the newspapers don't report it. In a nutshell, the IRS, the income tax, represents the greatest program of organized extortion the world has ever seen.
Do you pay an income tax?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a law that requires you to pay an income tax?
Have I ever read it? You mean in the page, black and white? No,
Yeah.
no.
So you pay the income tax, I assume?
Of late. Well, actually, no, I didn't file last year, but
Okay. I'm sorry, is this on film? No, I paid my taxes. My question to you is, have you ever seen a law that says you have to pay an income tax?
The law is that guy that wears that badge and a gun. That's the one that puts you in jail. That's the law.
Actually, I can't stand the IRS. Okay. They're evil. Do you have any fear of the IRS?
Not really, because I'm Canadian.
I think it's actually unconstitutional, is what I've heard.
Right.
But to avoid any hassle, I pay it.
If there was no law and I wasn't afraid of them coming and taking me to jail, absolutely, I wouldn't pay taxes.
Okay, then no, I wouldn't pay income taxes.
It's a no-brainer. You wouldn't pay it.
I wouldn't pay it.
Why would anybody? Because that's what they tell us we must do, else we're bad Americans.
Would you pay it?
No.
Would you pay it?
No.
Why would you pay taxes if you don't have to?
What if I told you that all your money that the income tax that's paid into the income tax just goes to pay the interest on the national debt?
That's incredible. That's truly incredible. I thought it was for infrastructure and all the other stuff.
The income tax is not legal because it would be a direct tax and it is not apportioned as the Constitution demands.
If it's against the Constitution, then why are we doing it?
Expected that, of course, there's a law that you can point to in the law book, the code, that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. Maybe I don't know what it is right then as he was speaking to me, but sure. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable, at least not me and most people I know. And I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. And I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. And the answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
But We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. And to me, $50,000 is a lot of money. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000. And, based on the research that I did throughout the year 2000 and that I'm still doing, I have not found that law. I've asked Congress, we've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
Raising up taxes high. The one escape is to go and die. They want a bigger piece of the pie. The way it's wasted, I don't know why. Sure as the sun will set in the northern sky. Oh my, the boys are on your side. The boys are on your side. They're raising up taxes big. We have the hole that we have to dig. We fill the hole right above your wig. We have to feed such a greedy pig. As sure as the sun will set in the southern sky. Oh yeah, the boys are on your side. The boys are on your side. Sales tax, income tax, usage tax, and excise tax, business tax, state tax, federal tax on sugar smacks, retail and resale, border tax, it never fails. They put a tax on soupy sales, fail to pay it, fill the jails. Hot tax, cold tax, taxes on your ex-lax, payroll tax from Big Macs, taxes when you rip your slacks. Acquisition uses racks, they never had thumb tax. Kevorkian's the best of jacks, Balzac's book tax, feeding stuff upon the decks, dragnet will stick to facts. Dr. Phil's the best of quacks, he's the duck that has the knack. As sure as the sun revolves around the moon, they're gonna get you soon. As sure as the sun revolves around the moon, they're gonna get you soon. They're raising up all the taxes high. You can't escape it even when you die. 98% of the pie you on and it makes me cry. As sure as the sun revolves around the moon, we're gonna get you soon. You're raising up all the taxes high. You're raising up all the taxes high. As sure as the government wants to own me, they'll never let me be. Ah, let me be.
Tendon delves even more deeper into Wilson, Michigan's crude and sophisticated plans simultaneously. Wilson, Michigan, the paperwork man, is sort of an archetype for the paperwork people who have existed through time where there was paper. All of the different governing structures. And of course, history is full of some very horrible events, just jam-packed with them from end to end. And oddly enough, it's ruling structures that are responsible for all of it. Why? Because they have an inordinate amount of power, an inordinate amount of force. And so they're more capable of conducting these things. If they were incapable, they would be normal people whose reaches can't go very far. But governments have a way of involving thousands to millions to hundreds of millions of people. And so the activities and negative events that can occur are sort of examined in Tendon, whereas they also are sort of sarcastic in how they go about harvesting resources from their victims so that they can fund their own lavish lifestyle and expansive intent.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
All the money sitting idle, waiting for my skillful hand. All the money sent from voters into the plan. They're told it's what they need. We give them what they want. We take until they bleed. Resist this they cannot. Oh, we will dine upon their flesh and taste their heart. We using taxes, law, and stealth, we plumb the depth. How the back room suits us well to do our deals. We feast upon the thigh, let's pass the salt and then the meal is finally done when we bite into the tendon. The meal is finally done at the tendon. The joy in telling lies is only offset by looking in their eyes and see the trust we get as we tell them how the banks need more cash. The meal is finally done at the tendon.
Central banker. Oh, to be a central banker. The central banker tells the story of Wilson, Michigan. When I grew up, art for me was shoplifting. Then I grew wiser, switching into politics. Where could I go to learn such great tricks? Prepared to be a banker. Central banker song. Where else will you find a song about central bankers than the centrifugal Zotz clock?
Something that you need to understand, that all of these wars and assassinations that we're told are crazed lone nut assassins or weapons of mass destruction or bringing democracy, all of them track back to the private central bankers as the initiating event. And the more you study this, the more you will realize all the wars are wars for the bankers, for the private central bankers. And I know a lot of people are going to have difficulty comprehending this. Just how many of these wars we have fought as a nation were fought for no other purpose than to force private central banks onto nations that did not want them.
Oh, to be a central banker, wrecking life to the ends of the earth. How many crises I create will be the measure of my total worth. The banks all need some extra cash. I print the money as I dash to help the Congress waste that money. Fool the public, ain't it funny? Oh, to be a central banker, wrecking life to the ends of the earth. How many crises I create will be the measure of my total worth. The high food prices with high taxes burn the workers and the poor. Yet I can lie about inflation, babbling on about the core. So old to be a central banker, wrecking life to the ends of the earth. How many crises I create will be the measure of my total worth. Oh, to be a central banker. They chose me to be a central banker. When I was younger, art for me was shoplifting, and I grew wiser, switching to politics. Where could I go to learn such great tricks? Prepared to be a banker. myself higher each day, king of the world. And now I've reached the top. Oh, to be a central banker. They chose me to be a central banker. When I was younger, art for me was shoplifting. Then I grew wiser, switching into politics. Where could I go to learn such great tricks? Prepare to be a banker.
Wait. Okay. All right. Now first I'm getting, okay, go. That's good. Move out. Move out more. Wave the flag. Okay, good. Do some kicks. Do some kicks. Kick your legs. Kick your legs. Okay, now roll on the ground one time. There you go. Oh, beautiful. That's the cum shot. Nice. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. Did you hear this? This music, it really goes with this sort of a scene. You need to be animated with your knife.
Great clock, synchronizing bell, ring in the parts all move. True clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. Send all the players hurrying to go, view all the layers and labyrinth below. Moving as if it's from a single thought, gears in the great saw's clock. Great and mighty clock, synchronizing bell, ring in the parts all move. Great and mighty clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. 2 or million, rational or not, no reptilian impulses forgot. Follow instincts from each of flock, gears in the great saw's clock.
Just take your time, be there, then look to the left, look to the right, then look straight ahead, grim. Okay, good. kick. And kick again with the other one. And kick. Kick again.
I can't really see. Here, you should film Steve.
Alright, you're on. Wave the flag. Good. Now, do the silliest thing you can think of. Good, excellent.
Right clock, synchronizing bell, ring and the parts all move. True clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. Send all the players hurrying to go. View
Okay,
all the
good.
layers and labyrinth
That's it.
below.
Now cheese it up as much as you can. Do the weirdest stuff you can think of. Yeah. Alright.
Synchronizing bell, ring and the parts all move. Great and mighty clock, mystifying tell, clue if it's dark or light. 2 or million, rational or not, now around till your impulses forgot. Follow instincts, folly to fraud, gears in the great song's clock.
High quality. I'll let you shut it off.